Breaking news. So, there's breaking news about the Maryland man, the father. What is the news? Contempt?
Judge James Boasberg accuses the administration of willfully disobeying his order to turn planes around, planes that took off just as he was convening his first hearing in the case. The judge says he'll drop the criminal contempt proceedings if the administration asserts legal custody of the alleged gang members now in El Salvador, a move that he says would allow them to challenge their removal. If the administration refuses, he says he'll call for live witness testimony to determine which individuals the court should punish.
Oh. Who's taking one for the team, guys? Somebody's got to do it. So this is the entire Trump presidency should just be done inside of a courtroom. That's what's going on. So this now
it almost kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Now, so this is contempt. This has nothing to do with the Maryland man kind of thing. It has to do with the flights, but not the man in particular. So he's holding the administration potentially in contempt of court based on them not listening to him and saying, bring it back, when he's like, they're already over international waters. There's nothing we could do. So now you've got, so this is this portion of it. Not to be confused with Maryland guy. Totally different guy, right? That guy has, according to Chris Van Hollen, has been kidnapped by his country.
Of course, President Trump could have just said, bring him home. Of course he could have done that. But this is an administration that has lied about Mr. Abrego Garcia, right? The vice president of the United States tweeted out that he had a criminal record. That was a lie. They're just lying. They've gotten caught lying. They don't want to admit it. And they have an obligation to bring him home. But I will say the president of El Salvador should not now take it upon himself to say that he is detaining him for one more day, because that is kidnapping. I understand that the Attorney General said that we would provide a plane to bring him home. So all the president of El Salvador has to do now is hand over and release an innocent man and let him come home to his family.
No, I don't think you're going to get what you want there. That's Chris Van Hollen. He's a senator from Maryland. And I'm sure you heard some of that on Chris's show earlier today. He went to the airport, kids, because he's heading over there as the savior to all that is, in their mind, the holy. This is the person they must protect, the martyr that must be. Now, I am all for the due process. We talked about it yesterday. Why is that? Because I think when you have the due process, you get everything out in the courtroom. You measure once, you measure twice, 3 times. Let's cut once. Let's not do it. Let's just get it done. Let's not have these things going on, because then there's nothing that they can say. Nothing. So should he have been sent to El Salvador according to this court document here, this case? No, he shouldn't have been sent to El Salvador. Doesn't mean he gets to say here, but he is there in El Salvador. He's an El Salvadorian citizen. And their due process is their due process. That's on them. But this guy, this is the hill that they want to die on. They pick the worst, as we always say, they run at the dumbest things they can run at.
I'm here at the airport. I'm about to board my flight for San Salvador. The goal of this mission is to let the Trump administration, to let the government of El Salvador know that we are going to keep fighting to bring Abrego Garcia home until he returns to his family. I hope to meet with representatives of the government. I hope to have the chance to actually see Kilmar and see what his condition is. But we are going to keep fighting, because this is a miscarriage of justice. The Supreme Court has ruled 9-0, that he was illegally taken out of the country and put in a prison in El Salvador. And this is about due process. This is about rule of law. What bullies do is they begin by picking on the most vulnerable. But if we get rid of the rule of law and due process in the United States, it's a short road from there to tyranny.
There's no hyperbole there. Just want to make sure you guys know there's nothing about that. There was no, this is it. We're a short road away from the end of the world. The minute Trump ignores anything the judge has done, climate change. Can't stop it. I've seen this movie, 2012. The 9/0 thing, and go over that again. It's they bent over backwards. They came up with something, but it's ridiculous. At this point in time, he's not coming back unless how are you getting him back? Maybe he brings him back. Maybe he doesn't. But as far as if you were to say, okay, he's got to come back, you got to force them to bring him back. Trump is going to fight this tooth and nail because of if they can say that, we, being the United States, we have control over these prisoners. That means, can I force you, who had nothing to do with the deportation of so-and-so, but he's over in another country, can we force them to release them? I mean, the Pandora's box that may come out of this is ridiculous. The question is, what happens from here with this grounds for contempt? What tools do they have? What can they do?
Judge Boasberg now saying he's going to be deposing members of the administration to answer for what went down back in March. After he issued that order, those planes continued. He has a lot of tools at his disposal. He can prosecute them, he says, for contempt, including by appointing an independent attorney to bring those involved with that procedure to justice.
So, and this is one of what will be many, many more in the coming months of these battles. The joke earlier about, Trump might as well do his entire presidency in a courtroom, and it has nothing to do with anything other than everything they're going to do is going to be based on, well, he violated this, he violated that, he did this, he did that, we're going to sue. Yesterday, the tariff lawsuits came out. We are going to get this over and over again. And it is frustrating. Look, I'm a due process. You guys listen to the show, I want the due process. They use the courts as a way to stop everything they don't like, not the ballot box. And if there is things that are overreach, that's what the courts do. The courts are there for that. But it doesn't matter what he does. It doesn't matter what the Republicans do. But it is all about him. They live for him. They have made their entire existence, especially right now when they've got no leadership, about Trump. This is Chris Scalise, who is a good dude. I've had him on my national show, and he's talking about this. He was on News Nation talking about the fact that they pick the worst ideas. They stick with things that they're not good at, immigration being one of them, and they fight a fight wherever Trump wants them to fight.
And I think the issue here is it's not every Democrat, but a lot of Democrats, Democratic elected officials and Democratic activist types and major donors hate Donald Trump. And I use that word advisedly. I don't throw it around, but they hate him. And they don't understand why everyone doesn't. I always say to people, just because you hate him doesn't mean the average voter who's a swing voter hates him. But they view everything, when you hate someone, everything that person does is viewed as a 10 out of 10. The worst thing since fill in the blank. And when everything is a mountain, molehills. And you get into a boy who cried wolf situation. I'm throwing like 1,000 cliches at you. But the broader point I'm trying to make here is I just think he keeps getting them to fight on his ground.
Every day. If you want to fight the fight that's going on right now, the due process fight is fine. But instead of fighting the due process, let's go have a conversation about it. This is what we're asking you to do. Instead, you feed right into them. You fight, and then you make people martyrs who really not the best idea to do, especially when you've got people in your state that have been murdered by people that are here illegally. You look like, wow, this is what you care about. This is it. Same thing even goes for something like Harvard.
We're not talking about it, but I think the Harvard thing another great example.
We're going to talk about it later in the show. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to defend a university that has a $53 billion endowment because they are not getting $2 billion from the federal government, that I guarantee people didn't even know they were getting. Like, just the politics of that favors Donald Trump.
And the politics does. And we're going to talk about Harvard later because there was a great debate last night with Shermichael Singleton and Abby Phillips on CNN that I caught some of. And it had to do with China as much as it did the, diversity of thought and ideas on the campus. But these people that are obsessed with Donald Trump, it's become their identity. I was talking to my buddy who is he's a Democratic strategist. He handles local, state stuff in California. And I were chatting the other day, and I'm like, dude, do you ever worry that when Trump goes away that you have nothing? Because even your local candidates, right, they run on Trump's evil. And he goes, dude, I worry about it all the time. I'm like, he goes, it used to be, you demonize the other side to a certain extent, but then you talk about the things you're going to do. Nobody does that now. It's just easier to scare people. And they don't even do it right. Like the lies about Social Security, even last night with Biden. You're lying. None of that's true. There's plenty. If you want to argue, there's plenty of stuff you can be mad at Trump about. You can bring up honestly and say, I have some serious issues with this. There's plenty. But you go to a thing where you're like, no, that's not true. And everybody knows it's not true. You're scaring a group of people that are already scared. And the average person knows you're not telling the truth. So you're not winning that person. You've made your entire identity, he's evil. That's your new gender identity. Not Trump. Oh, I can't wait to talk about the Brits. The Brits stirring up the pot. Ooh, J.K. Rowling right now has got to be so excited now that the UK has said, no, a woman is a woman. If you're born, if you're assigned at birth, a vagina. That's a good way. Can you say that? It's like that wasn't too, I don't want to be too bad.
Well, you kind of did.
Yeah, but it wasn't, a hoo-ha.
I wonder if all the people that they put in jail for saying things on the internet regarding trans people will be let out now.
No, probably not. No. You have to be a part of the child rape gangs to get out over there. You know how that is. It's that place, we had yesterday, Whitlock on talking about, I don't know if I'd go to England right now. I've got enough stuff that I figure if I got off the plane, they may take me into custody immediately. You don't want that, kids. I'm telling you that right now. Coming up, a lot of stuff still to get to. The stuff last night with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think she's a celebrity. But not just her, Grassley, what happened over the weekend with Shapiro, the Democrat in Pennsylvania. We got to start figuring this stuff out because it's not if but when at this point. And that is going to be an ugly time. And I do think it's coming. A lot of good stuff besides that to get to. Fun stuff, including hair recession. You're going to want to pay attention to this.
Oh, don't even pretend. You're the one who has no hair.
No. I've shaved my head, man. I got a new shaver too. It's nice. But hair recession. Could this be the first thing that says, hey, we may be going into a little bit of a slowdown in the economy? It is the Chad Benson Show. So talk 99.7. Birch Gold. Why gold? Because it's awesome, right? Something's been around for more than a little while, and it's a great way to protect yourself in times of uncertainty, and I think we're definitely living in those times, especially geopolitically, as well as with the economy, tariffs, all of those things. Inflation, maybe a weakening of the dollar. You're going to want to have an asset that will appreciate and protect you just in case things go south. And that's what gold gives you. I want you to text the word Benson right now to 98.98.98 for Birch Gold. They're my gold company. I buy my gold from them. My family does. And they're going to get you out a info kit, let you take a look at what they do, how you can move your IRA or 401k over. It is simple and easy. No hard sell, none of that stuff. Just give you the facts about gold and why it's great to have. Text the word Benson now for Birch Gold to 98.98.98 today for Birch Gold.
A judge says he believes there's grounds to hold the Trump administration in criminal contempt. I'll tell you about that more at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
This is a peaceful town hall. Now, this is a peaceful town hall, ladies and gentlemen. This should not have to happen.
Marjorie Taylor Greene last night, there was more than a few disruptions, including somebody got shocked.
Don't tase me, bro.
Don't tase me, bro. Look, I'm not a fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think she is in it for herself. I think there is a person, if you want to point to a celebrity on the right-hand side especially, it's her. She loved herself a camera and an Instagram and a Twitter.
Yeah.
That being said, Chuck Grassley yesterday and then Shapiro over the weekend. It is not if, but when. This and you know, go back, was it the congressional baseball game, right? Remember that when they
Yeah.
I mean,
Shot Steve Scalise.
Steve Scalise. I mean, that was bad. You had two, not one, but two assassination attempts on Donald Trump's life, pre-presidency. You've got people calling for the unaliving, execution, assassination of Trump and Musk. We have, you know, not to mention the God knows how many that we never hear about at all, that they get to early, which is scary. But this kind of stuff here, it is not if but when. And that thing with Shapiro over the weekend, that guy was, now, I think there's somebody who's going to, and the difference is the Shapiro one, after watching that guy over the last couple days and several of the times they've taken him in and out of the courtroom, I would like to say I'm going to go with he's a bit of a wackadoo.
He may indeed be mentally ill.
Yeah, I think of all the, because it's the tongue thing yesterday was just like, what the hell is wrong with you, dude?
Yeah.
He's not all there. But there's going to be somebody who looks at somebody like Luigi Mangione and thinks that, you know what, I can make a difference doing something like that. And, we have seen it before in this country, obviously with the Kennedys, but, Reagan, how many people tried to shoot Ford? Right? By the way, Gerald Ford was the only president that was never elected to anything. Wasn't even elected to be vice president.
Well, I'll be.
Yeah, think about that. Spiro, you screwed up, huh? You could have been president. But we are, I think, at a place where because of the algorithms, because of the anger, because of the fact that people feel desperate, they feel helpless in a way that they never have, and they look and they see the potential for whatever stardom or it's not if but when. And it's horrible to say, but it's no different than saying there's going to be an earthquake or there'll be some tornadoes or there will be, it just feels like that's where we are.
I'm afraid you're right, man.
And I don't want it to be that way, but I don't know, man. I applaud people who want to go and do these town halls, but I don't think I would. Not now. Not at this kind of temperature that I feel like we're at right now, which is somebody I think is going to pay the ultimate price. And I think it's not going to be somebody who's crazy, but it's going to be somebody who wants to make a point politically. That is, I want to be wrong, but I don't think I am.
Afton has a town hall this Saturday, and I guarantee you nothing like this will happen.
No. Nor should it. Shouldn't happen anywhere. Right or left. If you say, I want to go, if you're a dumbass and you say, I want to go get Bernie or AOC, you're nuts. You're an asset, and you need to be dealt with. And the same thing goes for anybody on the right. It's politics. Yes, there are repercussions when it comes to voting and certain things, but we need to bring the temperature down in the room. We need to have a better conversation with each other because this isn't the way to handle it. And there are too many people out there who I think right now are looking at the Luigi Mangiones, looking at stuff like that and thinking, I think I can make a difference. That is the true definition of terrorism, trying to use violence to persuade people to change their mind about certain political views. So we'll see. Coming up, we'll talk a little bit about the fact that we don't have a lot of beds here for people who aren't stable, which is crazy. Got a bunch of other stuff, some more immigration news, maybe some tariff stuff as well. It is the Chad Benson Show. Super Talk 99.7.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. The chief judge of the federal district court in D.C. says he believes there's grounds to hold Trump administration officials in criminal contempt.
Judge James Boasberg accuses the administration of willfully disobeying his order to turn planes around, planes that took off just as he was convening his first hearing in the case. The judge says he'll drop the criminal contempt proceedings if the administration asserts legal custody of the alleged gang members now in El Salvador, a move that he says would allow them to challenge their removal. If the administration refuses, he says he'll call for live witness testimony to determine which individuals the court should punish.
So this has to do with the flights to El Salvador, not just the man who was on those flights, who was arrested in Maryland, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Here's what U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has to say about him.
He is not coming back to our country. President Bukele said he was not sending him back. That's the end of the story.
Bondi says ICE testified. An immigration judge ruled that Garcia is a member of MS-13, or was at least. An appellate judge ruled He was a member of MS-13.
Hard stop. He should not be in our country.
And a day after the release of new statistics on autism, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is offering up theories about what's behind a surge in cases. Here's Jim Ryan.
In its own literature about autism spectrum disorder, the CDC cites genetic conditions as one potential cause. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suggests that.
Genes don't cause epidemics. You need an environmental toxin.
And he thinks it's not an accident.
Somebody made a profit by putting that environmental toxin into our air, our water, our medicines, our food.
Kennedy has vowed to determine the source of what he calls the autism epidemic. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Here in Nashville, another win for Mayor Freddie O'Connell's transit plan to be funded by a sales tax increase. The Tennessee Court of Appeals now says that plan can be legally implemented, upholding a lower court's ruling against the committee to stop an unfair tax lawsuit. But the judges did say money from that sales tax increase cannot be used to buy land for housing and parks. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Yes, kids, busy bee. How about your HVAC? You got some issues with that? No, but you never know, Chad. Okay, well, maybe you need to give him a buzz today. How about maybe you got issues with your plumbing? No, but I could. Well, then join the Beehive Club. Simple and easy to do. Call 775-7833. When you join the club, you're ready to roll. Why is this a good thing? Because you never know when things are going to go south, and you want to make sure you're put at the top of the board, if you will. Somebody coming out there, express, boom, taking care of you, giving you discounts and making sure you're taken care of in ways that you just cannot believe. Plus, you get a couple of inspections a year, which covers the busy bee cost for the Beehive Club. They're the best around. I trust them. They text us all the time. We talk to them all the time. Nathan, Gary, and everybody. I'm telling you guys, you will find no better people who do the best work because they care like you cannot believe. So what are you waiting for? Join the Beehive Club today and make sure if you've got any issues with your HVAC, even if you just need inspection or plumbing, you call Busy Bee. Make that the first and only call you make, 775-7833, or visit busybeehvac.com. Breaking news. The breaking news desk. That is a silly bed, right? Can we all agree? Raise your hands. Yeah, we're all raising our hands. It's horrible. It's not your fault, Belle. I know it's your favorite thing, but still, we don't like it. We're not here. Not now. Not ever. This is a great, bizarre, wacky story. It's a horrible story. And we don't have enough beds. First of all, nationwide, there's not enough beds for the mentally ill. The hospitals have become the dumping grounds for the mentally ill. I think we recognize that. So this is a story I grabbed from last night. Here, again, we have issues. We're pretty, we're not the smallest state, but we need more than 6 beds. If we have people that are in jail who are unfit to stand trial, but they can't stay in jail, so we're just like, well, let's let them out. We can't have that. We saw what happened. By the way, I like the way the story starts because you can hear the bitterness in the anchor's voice over where his co-anchor is.
No doubt it is a tragic murder that changed Tennessee law. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Rory Johnston. Carrie continues her Iceland assignment.
Freaking Carrie gets to go to Iceland. I'm stuck here talking about stuff like this.
You know, many of us remember the sad story when Belmont University student Jillian Ludwig was shot and killed. It was nearly 2 years ago now. She was hit by a stray bullet while walking near the university, specifically at the Edge Hill Community Memorial Gardens Park. The man police arrested had a long criminal history, but had been released after being found not competent to stand trial.
Now, in most cases I've ever seen, when somebody's not competent to stand trial because they've done something, it doesn't mean just turn them loose, which is what happened. I mean, I think L.A. County Jail is the largest mental facility in the country. They have nowhere to stick some of these people, and they're not mentally well. They're not there to get better. It's just to cage them in.
Last year, lawmakers passed Jillian's law, and that was to make sure people get treatment. But after detailed reporting from News Channel 5 Investigates Ben Hill, now, Ben, they're making changes, right?
Well, that's right. Lawmakers want more treatment beds for people with intellectual disabilities. It comes after judges told us more beds are desperately needed.
And more beds, I thought, okay, cool. So, like, what are you talking about? You know, we need 100 beds? How many beds we need? 200 beds? 12? We're going to double it? From 6?
I always appreciate it when you all or any other professional media member out there is looking into the bills that we pass.
State Representative William Lamberth sponsored Jillian's Law last year. It was named for Belmont University student Jillian Ludwig, who police say was shot and killed by Shaquille Taylor while she was walking in a park. Taylor had a long criminal history, including shooting into a moving car, but he had been released after being found not competent to stand trial. He was intellectually disabled and functioned at the level of a kindergartner.
That is, I mean, you know, like, you ever watch horror movies like say, Friday the 13th? Like, you think that's somebody who'd function as a kindergarten. It's crazy. Doesn't understand if that was real. You're functioning at the level. I have a 6-year-old who functions a little bit higher than that, but still, as an adult, think about having an adult like that. I've got my 2 little brothers who are both, they're on few brothers who are on the spectrum. One of them obviously can't walk or talk, but the other 2, they're well past this. This is a grown man who has a propensions for violence, who functions as a kindergartner, who probably has no idea the difference between right and wrong. And it's not if, but when they do something. The only way they're ever going to be housed and taken care of and off the streets is when they finally do something where you have to take them off the streets forever.
Jillian's Law required that incompetent people get treatment instead of simply being released back to the streets. In this past year, has Davidson County had somebody with an intellectual disability that needed to go somewhere and there wasn't a bed? Has that happened?
Yes.
And so what happened?
Multiple times.
Multiple times?
Yes.
But early this year, Davidson County Judge Melissa Blackburn told News Channel 5 Investigates that Jillian's Law did not provide enough treatment beds.
We've run across 4 to 6 individuals that have intellectual disabilities, and there's no place for them to go.
That highlighted issues that we were already asking questions about, but it just brought that to the surface.
Lambert said after our report, he started looking at increasing treatment beds. He said the Tennessee Department of Disability and Aging just needed authorization to use current funding to double the number of beds from 6 to 12.
6 to 12. How many of you out there really believe that there's only 12 people who are mentally not all there? I see at least a few, 3 or 4 people a day. Now, I don't think they're violent, but you can look and say, that person is not there. They're not mentally, they're incapable. If you gave them, it's always the argument like, well, if they had housing, right? Because that's always because if you gave a lot of these people a house, you put them in the house, you put food in the house, and you thought they're going to be okay, they wouldn't even be there in many cases by the end of the evening. They're not there. Something needs to be done. But it's a crime itself to have just 6 beds. And then you have to go, well, we have to get some sort of, we got to go get paperwork done. It's 6 beds.
And we have provided tax dollars, your money, to be able to go to those beds. And so when we hear from the department that they just need authorization to use that money to expand, then it's important that they do so.
But as we reported, finding staff for new treatment beds is not easy. The department could not even staff the 6 beds it had last year. In January, 1 bed sat empty because it was not staffed.
These are folks that are dangerous. These are folks that are accused of some very heinous crimes. They do not need to be out just wandering the streets.
Lambert said that can't happen when there's a waiting list for those beds. He believes the department will find staffing, but he will be watching to make sure it happens.
Well, so long as we continue to keep an eye on it and y'all continue to keep an eye on them, I am confident that they will expand those beds.
And that whole thing with this is not one of those things where you hire somebody who's just going to babysit like that. Like it's usually a big dude, right? It's Belle and I kind of thing, because you're dealing with somebody who is, and no offense to you, Belle, but you're taller than, somebody who weighs 110 pounds. It's somebody who's unstable. My producer for my national show is getting ready to retire. For years before he got into radio, he worked at like a Bellevue, and his stories of the fist fights, the stabbings, the things he had to do to take down people. And, he went to school for that. And, he went and got his degree in psychology and stuff. And he goes, I spent time essentially every day I knew I was going to go, I was going to fight somebody. And I thought, my God, no wonder nobody wants that job. All for $12? We need to do better. And I think we need to do better than 12 beds. Absolutely. Much better than 12 beds. Meanwhile, I'm looking at you, Belle, because of the hair.
What?
Well, hair recession could be on the way.
I have no hair recession.
Well, you don't. But for ladies, and this is interesting. So the way that they've done this is, I don't know if you're aware of this, but everybody and everything keeps track of everything that goes on. One of the things that the social media world, but also the Googles and everything else look at is what women in particular, a study came out the other day, are doing when it comes to hair care products and stuff that may be leading people to think, people seem to be bracing for maybe a slowdown in the economy.
This is really fascinating, right? So it's easier than ever to buy things online, so it's traceable. So some of the experts are pointing to Google searches or Amazon purchases that say, wait, this might be an economic forecast. If anything, it's just actually fascinating. So if we look at women, this is a demographic that seems to prioritize self-care, right? So we see them in 2025 searching for frugal tips and tricks just in case there could be a shaky economy in 2025. So say goodbye to maybe those pricey Taylor Swift tickets. So the first one I want to point to is nails, right? So we're seeing that nail salons may be out. Press-on nail searches actually have jumped 10% in 2025, according to Google. Blonde may be out, no offense to myself. Natural may be more in. There's a 17% jump on Google. So remember COVID hair? We could now see recession hair.
Recession hair. Now, Ken, you and I have nothing to worry about. Our hair is beautiful. It's flowing.
Absolutely.
Belle, you might not be able to get that pert you like.
Pert?
I don't know. You like pert? I don't know what do you
VO5, baby.
VO5?
VO5.
Whoa, settle down.
I remember pert. Do they still make that?
I'm sure they do.
Gee, my hair smells terrific.
That's right.
That's right.
Got it right next to my Irish bar of soap.
Yeah, when you cut it with a pocket knife.
You take your pocket knife to cut.
And then I'm going to throw on my Old Spice, and I'm getting out of here. Oh, the memories.
Well, for me, I find that recession hair during this time is, at first, it started out more of a budget thing. And then I think when people have seen how that organic look is just so beautiful and you can just enhance your natural, they're loving it.
So enhance your natural and save a little bit. Another trend that we're seeing, according to Google, is DIY fashion. So social media is flourishing with dupes, alternatives to expensive brands like Nike or Lululemon. And thrifting, which became popular during COVID, is actually getting more and more popular. Coupon Follow says 85% of thrifters say they are motivated to save money in a shaky economy. So they're looking at Goodwill and they're looking at places like Salvation Army.
My kids love the Goodwill. They love to go to thrift stores. They love to do it because they're always looking for like 90s skate shirts and stuff like that. They're very into the 90s. But thrifting has been around for a while. And there's a difference between like cool thrifting and then, like going, the Goodwill's different than, some Goodwills are good. You're like, okay, this is okay. And others you're like, ugh. But there's some places you go, you're like, this is, you're getting some top of line stuff. Yeah, no, people are looking to save money because they're worried.
Women are also, I think, much more prone to cutting things for themselves versus things for their families.
Settle down.
And I think that's how you get to things like recession hair. Women are much more likely to say, I will give up these luxuries or these things that I enjoy so that, my kids can go to summer camp or so that we can do these things that we want for our family.
Recession hair. We're going to follow Belle's lead. If Belle starts to go to VO3 instead of VO5.
I forgot about those, man.
Somebody just hit us up and said, you guys know it's going to be bad when there's a recall on Aquanet. They still make Aquanet, or does that still destroy the...
No, they still make it.
Destroy the earth? What was it? LA Gear Gel or LA Gel, LA Style?
I remember that, dude.
Right? You're like... Your hair didn't move for a week.
Nothing beats a good old can of Aquanet, though.
Oh, Aquanet was fantastic. If you got by anything that was flammable, you were going to go up. Oh, my Lord. Oh, goodness me. So, kids, recession hair, if you guys are saving money by skimping on hair, ladies, if you really want to save money, shave your head. It's a problem solved. We give you those beauty advice and follow along for more beauty tips. Coming up, more stuff. We'll talk a little bit more on what's going on over in the UK, which is very interesting because the UK Supreme Court has spoken about man and woman. What are they? We'll discuss that, among other things. This is the Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. Oh, kids, Ruff Greens, RUFFgreens.com. Go there now. Get yourself a free bag of Ruff Greens. $20 value. It's not going to cost you anything but shipping, and it is awesome. Ruff Greens is amazing. I've given it to my dog for years. So I got 2 dogs. They're little. It's amazing. I don't have to do the 90-day challenge. That's what they want you to do. It's a 90-day challenge. And in 90 days, you're going to see an improvement, guaranteed, that you've never seen with your dog. All from the live enzymes that is inside the 1 scoop a day supplement you give your dogs. Just 1 scoop a day. You're going to see improvement in everything from their coat to their energy level. You're going to see their aches and pains subside. You're going to see more mobility in their joints, better digestive tract, heart health. It is awesome. Try a Jumpstart trial bag of Ruff Greens today. Go to ruffgreens.com/Chad. Use that code Chad. RUFFgreens.com/Chad. Use code Chad. Save big. Do the 90-day challenge. Ruffgreens.com/Chad. Use code Chad.
A DEA agent kills a drug suspect in Nashville. The chief federal judge in D.C. says the Trump administration's in contempt of court. Got an autism rate increase report. And British scientists suggest your phone is making your thighs look fat. All that and more coming up at 1 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, no. Oh, I've eaten too fast, and because of that, it's going right to my butt.
Somewhere out there, one of our female listeners just threw their phone out the window of their car.
Yeah. Well, don't eat your phone.
That was a great Eric Idle, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I saw the Brits. The Brits are very busy today.
They are, man.
Very busy today. Yes, indeed.
They were cranking it out.
Very, very, very busy. The autism thing is interesting.
I just saw it. Yeah, well, go ahead.
I just, again, what's he said by September, they're going to have this, like this big report out, and they're going to we're going to find out where all of it's come from. And I would like to think that's true, but I think there's I think there's so many things that go into it. Partially, is it environmental? I think there's part of that's environmental. Is some of it probably genetic, including maybe certain people together may cause something. It's possible. Maybe a mother or father has some. Is it also the fact that we've expanded the spectrum? Because that has also happened.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Well, and do you have to take do you have to take every diagnosis and figure out what they've ingested, like what they've been breathing?
How do you do that?
That's what I don't know. I don't know how they're going to determine that by September.
No. It's impossible. I mean, it is. It's like when they do these studies, it's never going to be perfect because your genetics is different than somebody else's. So you're trying a pill, they're trying to reduce something on your body, but it may react a little bit different. Or, you may still smoke and the blood pressure medicine didn't work. Well, so-and-so didn't try to lose weight. He eats like crap. He never sleeps. He smokes all day. The other person may just take it. They have high blood pressure for whatever reason. It works on them. There's so many things that go into it. And it's the same thing. How can you tell if you're not following them around from the time they're born? I think you can get to a point where you can say, okay, certain environmental issues definitely play a role in some of these maybe dyes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they can't be everybody. I mean, and there's you can't look at everything. It's not like, when they're like, why do we have a cancer cluster here? Well, I was reading something the other day. In a hospital, I think it's here, there's 6 women that have brain cancer on the same ward within a few months. Well, I think that feels like that's more than just a coincidence. We should look into that. Why? But, why this kid has Asperger's and this kid's on the spectrum for something, and everybody's neurodivergent in some way, shape, or form is the way they look. And I think the expansion of that, I mean, there's no doubt there's an issue. But can you pinpoint one thing? And how do you have, as great as AI is and all of these computers, supercomputing, how do you do it with an individual? I don't know. A lot of stuff we're going to get to in the next hour, yes, including the contempt of court. Trump has contempted court. Is it really? I've contempted you. What does that even mean? Are they going to put him in? Are they going to put some third-year law guy? Just like, you're going to have to go to jail. What?
Man, we are seeing in real time how every little legal maneuver has an exit ramp.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You have to, right? And by the way, it's also the courts are trying to do everything they can to give them an exit ramp and vice versa.
It's both sides.
Both sides are trying to figure out how do we maneuver these things because the politics of this is massive. So we'll talk a little bit about that. More on the UK and what's happening over there. We got some hilarious. By the way, Todd says Pert is still made.
All right. Give me some.
He uses it. So good for you, Todd. It is the Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7.
1 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. And the DEA says shots were fired during a drug enforcement operation in Nashville this morning. Happened around 6 o'clock at the Fairfield Inn and Suites Hotel on 29th Avenue North.
There was one agent involved in the shooting and one suspect. There were multiple suspects. One was struck by gunfire.
Because we saw people in handcuffs being let off. So.
There were additional suspects that were not involved in the shooting.
Yeah, so Channel 4 says the suspect who died was a 36-year-old man. 2 other suspects taken into custody. No one else hurt. The Metro Police Department, the lead investigator of the shooting. A federal judge ruling today the executive branch acted in contempt of court for not turning around 2 planes taking alleged Venezuelan gang members to El Salvador last month. Here's Devin Dwyer.
Judge Boasberg now saying he's going to be deposing members of the administration to answer for what went down back in March. After he issued that order, those planes continued. He has a lot of tools at his disposal. He can prosecute them, he says, for contempt, including by appointing an independent attorney to bring those involved with that procedure to justice.
It will likely go back to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the other federal judge claiming Kilmar Abrego Garcia was unlawfully deported in those flights to El Salvador is pushing the Justice Department to testify under oath. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi says Garcia not coming back.
Well, he is an illegal alien who has been living illegally in our country from El Salvador. ICE testified. An immigration judge ruled he was a member of MS-13. An appellate judge ruled he was a member of MS-13. Hard stop. He should not be in our country.
And on the heels of the CDC report showing the rate of autism increasing, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says it's from the environment.
These are children who should not be suffering like this. These are kids who, many of them were fully functional and regressed because of some environmental exposure into autism when they're 2 years old.
CDC report from 14 states and Puerto Rico claims 1 in 31 children in 2022 diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder compared to about 1 in 36 in 2020 and 1 in 150 in 2000. Eating too quickly may not only give you indigestion, it can contribute to weight loss, or rather weight gain, that is. So slow down, says ABC's Sherry Preston.
British scientists say you're eating too fast if you typically finish a regular-sized meal in less than 20 minutes. That means you could have a higher risk of obesity, swallow more air that leads to bloating, or have unchewed pieces of food lodged in your esophagus. Expert advice: put down your phone, turn off the TV, and focus on the meal itself. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
So, got to keep up with the court cases here, okay? There's plenty of them flying around. There's a court case today. Now, this is Boasberg. That's a dude compared to the other one that's dealing with the Maryland dad. That would be a lady. Boasberg is dealing with the flights. Remember they took off? And he's like, you guys need to bring those back. And he's like, sorry, they're over the moon or whatever. However they get there. I don't know. They go to the moon, and then they flip, and they go to El Salvador. Right? So this is a different case. So the contempt, the freaking out is like, oh, my God, it's the contempt of court. The case here has to do with the actual flights themselves. And did you disobey his order? Was there time to stop those flights, to turn those flights around? Was there time for that? This is not the Maryland guy. We'll get to him in a bit.
In terms of next steps here, he's asking for the administration in a week or so. He's given them a deadline of a week today to file a declaration explaining the next steps that they've taken to kind of purge themselves of this potential finding of contempt. But the reality here is, and from talking to sources behind the scenes, the administration knew what they were doing. They knew that they were ignoring the judge's orders. I can't imagine that they are going to try and really rid themselves of this.
It's not going anywhere. And Ken and I were talking about before the break. Everybody's trying to give everybody the off-ramp that they need. The government, you have a right to do certain things, of which, a lot of that has to do with, when we look, it's about defense, like in particular, the executive branch. You've got defense is a big deal because you're the commander in chief, but also immigration. You have the say in these things. And so there are things that the federal government's supposed to do, and in particular, the executive branch. And everybody's trying to give, I don't want to be too much involved in this, but you do have to follow some of these rules. But, I could hold you in contempt because, in truth, if this was anybody else, they would have been held in contempt by now. But it's the federal government, and it's Trump. And so they're trying to give everybody the off-ramp. Just like with the Maryland, we could bring you back. Are we going to have to go about doing, cross-examining, bringing people in? Everybody is looking for that off-ramp. What's the right way for this to happen? I don't know at this point in time what they're going to do with this. Because are you going to ask, do they have a tracker on these things, like a black box where they track these things? Are we going to go out and look at the miles? Well, in theory, you weren't over the Gulf of America, right? You weren't over the Gulf of, well, hold on. At that time, it was the Gulf of Mexico. That's why it was international waters. We didn't change it till the next day. But is that what he's going to do? Boasberg's going to and he's going to get a pen, right? An abacus and whatnot. He's going to bring somebody in from the NTSB. They're going to measure it and say, well, he had enough fuel to turn around. How do you know? Did one take off afterwards? Well, then, okay, let's just say one took off afterwards. They disobeyed. Yeah, you know what? You disobeyed. You didn't listen to the judge. So somebody's got to be in trouble for that. Somebody's got to, do you stick somebody in the pokey for the weekend? Do you fine somebody? No idea. And this is not the first time that I think a lot of people think, well, Trump is the only president that's ever challenged that all presidents at some point in time will push back. It's the reaction to that is different. The reaction to the mainstream media love Trump. He's fun, right? That gives them the foil, right? Because they believe they're Batman and he is everything that is their, he's the Joker. We got to come save the world. So the mainstream media lives for this stuff. And so it becomes a reaction to what's the next thing he's going to do. And I've told you guys this. I'm going to probably end up doing 50 to 75 extra shows a year because of Donald Trump and because of the reaction to, and because, yes, at times himself, because he does stuff that's all over the place and you didn't expect this or that. But that's a lot. With Biden over 4 years, I think I did 6 or 8, and those were mostly things that happened that had nothing to do with him himself outside of dropping out and stuff. It's crazy. But it's the reaction to Trump that is a lot of what this chaos is. And it is chaos. It is. This is interesting. Barry Weiss, who I like, it's fun. Ken, you'll enjoy this. So we're trying to get Barry on the show, and I had Bell email her, and Bell's like, "Hey, sir." He goes, "You didn't tell me Barry was a girl." I said, "Bell, I don't even."
Good day, sir.
Good day, sir. How are you, sir? Good day, sir. But Barry Weiss is great. She was working at the Wall Street Journal. She worked at the New York Times. She got really popular at the New York Times for being the person they brought in who didn't hate Trump, even though she wasn't a fan of Trump. And she talks about that. But when they brought her into New York Times, that was right after Trump won, and they wanted her to go out and actually talk to human beings that voted for Trump.
When Trump won in 2016, you were at the Wall Street Journal and you were sobbing at your desk. Has your view of him evolved since then?
I'm the first to admit that I was a sufferer of what conservatives at the time would have called TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. And I was alarmed and really nervous about everything I was reading, and especially, and this hasn't changed, about his character.
No, that's understandable. Maybe you wouldn't want to date him. Maybe you would. I mean, I care about, are you going to do the things you're supposed to do that you said you were going to do? And you can do them lawfully and follow the Constitution. Everything else I don't care about. Because everything else is just noise. Actions matter more than words, period.
There were two things I think that I didn't know in that moment when I was crying at my desk. One would be the sort of overzealous, out-of-touch, hysterical reaction to him that calls itself democratic, that calls itself progressive, but is actually extraordinarily authoritarian and totalitarian in its impulses. The other thing that I didn't see was Trump was going to do a lot of policies that I agreed with. The economy was better.
Nothing wrong with that. This thought, again, it goes back to this thought that we have to agree with everything, that people, the politicians, you have to agree with everything. You have to be an upstanding person. No, I look at Trump. Am I a fan of Trump? First of all, I'm a fan of zero politicians. And I always and I'll tell you guys this right now, never fall in love, fall in like at best. Make them earn your vote over and over again. Because the minute they know you have your vote, you're never going anywhere, you're going to be ignored. And there are going to be a lot of things that I'm not always a fan of, the way that politicians do or don't do. But I look at a bigger picture, and I can compartmentalize some of those things because there's an alternative that I don't like at all. And I think that's what a lot of people who are not living in the world of extremes look at.
And look, the argument that the country would unravel and democracy would die in darkness and Trump would be this authoritarian Hitlerian power, it was impossible to make that argument in the run-up to this election only because Americans had lived through 4 years of him and things didn't fall apart. The sign of an open mind and the sign of a thinking person is a person that's able to sort of take on new information and adjust your priors and adjust your view.
Which most people want to. By the way, Belle, that is Barry Weiss right there. You might notice that his voice is a little feminine.
Hey, at least I don't miss my newscasts.
You don't miss your newscast. For those of you who don't know.
I know, man.
Last week, Ken was supposed to be at a newscast, and he was in there talking with us. And they're like, over to Ken for news. And
yeah,
that's what Chris said. And there was no Ken.
Did my teas, went down the hall, decided to get a cup of coffee.
But you know what he didn't do? He didn't put it in writing to her. Hey, dude, want to be on our show?
Well, in all fairness, you didn't tell me it was a chick.
Oh, hope they're listening here. What's up? What's up, chick?
Yo, dudette.
Dudette. There you go. There you go. I love what she said there, open-minded. Most people aren't open-minded. Most people can't come at stuff with any open mind anymore. I don't see a lot of that. And that's sad because I'm super open-minded. I'm willing to listen to what anybody has to say. Show me the facts and data, and we'll talk about it. And I don't pick politicians, if I'm going to vote for something or some, whether it's whatever they have on the ballot based solely on one, it's got an R or D by their name, so I'm voting that way, regardless of how they are and how they act and whether or not they're going to do something. It's just that letter that I'm voting. I'm voting for that team. I can't. That's crazy. But she is somebody who is I think, a mass, part of the big mass that's out there that's growing every day, which is the exhausted majority of people who are just over the BS. I just want somebody that's going to do the job. I want you to follow the Constitution, and I want you to stop living in the world of extremes. Because somebody gets mad at you or says something on the internet doesn't mean, I got to go that direction. It's like, and that's, we were talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, perfect example. AOC, they love being celebrities, and they'll take some of their marching orders from that. I just want solid people willing to do a gig and be open-minded, which you don't find a lot of that. I'll tell you that right now. And I prefer my berry with a Y. Oh, goodness me. Some of you chiming in because we were talking about the plane taking off and the contempt of court. And this is the funny thing about the courts. If it doesn't go the way that people like, that court is corrupt. If it goes the way that people like, well, that's a good court. It's like what we talked about the other day about Austin Metcalf, the kid who was stabbed in Texas. If the roles were reversed, the same people that are saying he's innocent would be screaming, that guy's guilty. And the same people that say our guy is guilty would say, no, he's innocent. It's the perspective. If I didn't get something I like, so therefore I'm mad at the other thing, the other side. Which is, again, goes back to, can you have an honest conversation and say, well, maybe well, I don't like the court because they've stepped on Trump. Well, SCOTUS ruled that Trump has to listen to the lower courts. Because think about this for a second. If the lower courts and district courts have no say in any of these things, imagine what all the presidents are going to be able to do to run roughshod, because not everything they do is always going to get to court. So you can do whatever you want up until the point of we can't have that. We have to have some sort of balance in this stuff. And we can't just have everything go straight to the Supreme Court when it comes to, because do you know how many lawsuits are out there every day against every administration? I mean, how many lawsuits did Tennessee file? God knows how many. How many did Texas file? Paxton's still filing lawsuits against Biden. He's not even there. So could you imagine what that would be like? Plus, they're older. The Supreme Court, they don't want to work that much. It's a good job if you can get it. I'll tell you that. We'll talk a little inflation. Retail sales were good, but is that going to be steady next month, or is this kind of like we're getting it in under the wire? We'll talk a little bit about that. A bunch of other stuff to get to, including what's going on in the UK. They made a decision today. They ruled on something today when it comes to the definition of a woman. And now people are upset about it. We'll talk about that as well. It is Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. Bullwork Capital. I want you to call my buddy, Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer at Bullwork. He's the one I trust with my money. My family trusts with him, everything, because he is awesome. He sees a bigger picture. He looks for things that others just don't see globally, not just what's going on here in the market here. And that's what's incredible. Call him today. Get a second opinion on what's going on in your investments, your retirement. Doesn't cost you anything but a little bit of time. He'll walk you through. He'll build you out a plan as you explain to him what it is that you're looking for out of everything. It's that simple. Call 866-779-RISK today, 866-779-RISK, or go to knowyourriskradio.com. That's KNOW, yourriskradio.com to get your second opinion free from my friends over at Bullwork Capital. That's knowyourriskradio.com. Investment advisor service offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Investments involve risk and not a guarantee. Past performance not guarantee future results. Trek 24173.
Deportation, contempt of court, autism report, and a Tennessee pastor kidnapped by gunmen in South Africa has been rescued. We'll tell you how that went down at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's funny, the court stuff, you talk about courts, and it's like, why should this guy be able to say, no, Trump, you can't do anything? We didn't elect him. Oh, I know, we didn't elect any of these. Did you elect any of the judges? Did you elect a Supreme Court justice? I didn't. No, nobody did. Some of them have been on there longer than we probably have been able to vote. I know it's frustrating because Trump said it. This person shouldn't be able to stop it. This is the way that we have it set up. If Congress wants to fix it, they can. They're more than capable of going out there, the legislative branch. You're more than capable of going out there, putting something together and getting it to the executive branch and doing it that way. But when it comes, it is, I get it, it's frustrating. But we have these things in place for a reason, so we don't have either party running roughshod. Because and you saw this, how many of you out there were complaining about Biden when he was doing all these things, going, where's the courts? Oh, I'm glad they overturned. And the people on the left are going, I can't believe they overturned that. I can't believe that. Because we can't have either side being able to decide what they're going to dictate through executive orders and actions just because. Our founding fathers wanted to make it difficult for both parties to do things. They wanted to make sure that there was some sort of agreement. And there isn't anymore. There's an agreement. The only thing that they agree upon is that they're, that they're on the right or left, and that's it. They don't agree upon anything other than that. They fight like cats and dogs, especially in front of the camera, because it's good for business. They don't agree upon a lot of things. And there isn't that mutual respect anymore, even that even Reagan have. I mean, look how long we've gone through a couple generations. That's gone. So I can get frustrated at the courts. But even yesterday we were talking about the Supreme Court. Somebody said Supreme Court's stupid. Trump should be able to overrule them. And I'm like, well, if we're going to have that, then he is now a king. He's a dictator. He can do whatever he wants. Well, no, that's not true. Well, no, that would be true. If he was able to overlook the Supreme Court and just do whatever he wants, then there's no use for the Supreme Court at all. Frustrating. I get it. It gets very frustrating, but we've, this is the way it's been set up. We can try to change it, which I don't know how many people are going to try to do that, because that would cause us to have, everything's a constitutional crisis, by the way, with Trump, as we know. But are we going to go out and change any of these laws? Are we going to have any of our people that are working hard, that are in Congress, go out there and say, we need to change some of this stuff? We need to be able, they've already tried to pass a law that says, hey, the district courts, they can't even rule on anything Trump does. Supreme Court ruled. Well, yeah, but that ruling's silly. It's not silly. It's all silly, by the way. By the way, speaking of immigration, that Maryland guy, because that somebody said, well, I said, what case are you talking about? He's like, well, I'm talking about the Maryland guy. I said, I'm talking about the other one, the flight case. Speaking of Maryland, Senator Van Hollen went to Maryland. From Maryland to El Salvador. What do you think he gets there and goes, man, this is way better than Baltimore. Baltimore sucks.
I'm here at the airport. I'm about to board my flight for San Salvador. The goal of this mission is to let the Trump administration, to let the government of El Salvador know that we are going to keep fighting to bring Abrego Garcia home until he returns to his family. I hope to meet with representatives of the government. I hope to have the chance to actually see Kilmar and see what his condition is. But we are going to keep fighting because this is a miscarriage of justice. The Supreme Court has ruled 9-0, that he was illegally taken out of the country and put in a prison in El Salvador. And this is about due process. This is about rule of law. What bullies do is they begin by picking on the most vulnerable. But if we get rid of the rule of law and due process in the United States, it's a short road from there to tyranny.
Is it? It's a short road from there to tyranny? Yes, if we got rid of the rule of law. But the rule of law is not gone anywhere. Trump hasn't defied any of these. He isn't. Once the flights that day, once they said you can't do anymore, he hasn't done anymore until they said it was okay to do more. And then there it is. The Maryland guy is a battle over, is he or isn't he? Is he this or isn't he that? Well, that's why they got to bring him back, give him the rule of law. And by the way, he's not an American citizen. He's an El Salvadorian citizen. And yes, he may have lived here for a while, and we shouldn't have sent him to El Salvador. According to what the asylum paperwork said, is you can deport him, just not to El Salvador. He had orders to be removed, and the hearing was still going on. But you're going there to rescue him is ridiculous. But it looks good. It plays well. It plays well among the base. A lot of stuff. We're still going to get to some of the hilariousness of what's going on in England and the battle of, oh my God, what are they going to do now that a woman is a woman? Because yes, they have ruled in England. The Queen is no longer with us, but the King is there, and he said, "What? A woman is a woman. That person with an Adam's apple is not named Linda." Talk about that straight ahead. Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 997.
.1:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. And a federal judge ruling today, the executive branch acted in contempt of court when his order to turn 2 planes carrying alleged Venezuelan gang members to El Salvador was defied by the Trump administration. At least the judge says it was defied. He calls it a willful disobedience of judicial order. Here's ABC's Devin Dwyer, who says this could end up being a lengthy ordeal.
Even though we expect the Trump administration to resist this contempt finding, they will challenge it. They will likely appeal it. It will likely go back to the U.S. Supreme Court. Every indication I have seen is that the Supreme Court will stand by Judge Boasberg if it gets there.
So the Salvadoran man arrested in Maryland, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, was on one of those flights, which another federal judge says was illegal, and is pushing for depositions from the Justice Department officials involved in the Garcia case. But U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi standing her ground.
He was deported. They needed one additional step in paperwork, but now MS-13 is characterized as they should be, as an FTO, as a foreign terrorist organization. So he is not coming back to our country.
Now, there was a hearing on this yesterday where the judge said she wanted expedited discovery that would potentially happen in the next 2 weeks. And on the heels of the CDC report showing the rate of autism increasing, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says it's because of some environmental exposure into autism when these kids were 2 years old.
It's time for everybody to stop attributing this to this ideology of epidemic denial.
This CDC report from 14 states and Puerto Rico claims 1 in 31 children in 2022 diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, compared to about 1 in 36 in 2020 and 1 in 50 back in 2000. And an East Tennessee pastor kidnapped in South Africa has been rescued. The South African Police Service says agents got into a shootout with Josh Sullivan's captors, 3 of whom were killed. Pastor Sullivan was unharmed. And that's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
I can say no to a shower, so there. Beacon Capital Management. Let me tell you something about retirement and why Beacon separates themselves. And I don't think people get, when you go into retirement, there's a lot of things that go on that you think when you're working, you forget about. Things like, taxes. Things like estate planning. Yes, even healthcare. Beacon does it all, and they want to get you out of retirement-ready toolkit. It's not just about what's going on in your account, which is important, your money, your investments, but it encompasses all things, and they can handle all things, and they're local, which is amazing. So with your retirement-ready toolkit, you're going to get a Money Enough for Life book, a retirement planning checklist, and a Maximizing Your Retirement Income white paper. There's no cost to you, no obligation, no pressure. Local, shake their hands. Call them today to get your free retirement-ready toolkit, 615-488-9303. That's 615-488-9303, or find them online at askbeaconnow.com. The British are doing their thing very much so. They have spoken today in the highest court, where they wear garments, which I think is hilarious. You guys have ever seen the courts in Britain? They all kind of cross-dress.
And even in the House of Commons, I guess the speaker is the one who has to wear all the regalia.
Got to get dressed up for this stupid thing. Somebody get my powdered wig. Well, they've spoken. Finally, the court has spoken. What is a man? What is thine woman?
A significant ruling from the UK's highest court is getting the attention of LGBTQ plus activists all around the world. The UK's Supreme Court has ruled the legal definition of a woman is someone born a biological female. The decision comes after a long-running legal battle and could have major implications for how sex-based rights apply across Scotland, England, and Wales.
And the rest of the globe will be looking at this. No way. Yes, they have to. And people are upset, obviously. The Brits have lost their way over the last several years. And we were talking about yesterday with, several. I've been talking about this for months. You know, I even said yesterday, it's like, I don't think I could even go to the UK. Because, I mean, you know, you're standing out in front of an abortion clinic and you're saying a prayer quietly. They're like, ma'am, we're going to have to ask you to leave. Why? I didn't say anything. Yes, but in your head you might be. I'm like, am I telepathic? Like, how's this working? They have lost their way. And this has become something where, obviously we see today, you know, the title on the lawsuit going on in Maine. This has become a story that it shouldn't have become. But this was never about whether or not it was real if a man was a woman. It's cultural Marxism. I need to get you to bend to my will and to change pronouns and to disbelieve your eyes out of fear that you may have punishment. Even if you know that's not a woman, you better say it is or else. And they have finally, I mean, this is their highest court, but this has sweeping ramifications globally because you know it's going to be challenged everywhere.
Hey, James, we got with this ruling, again, it came from the UK's highest court, and they defined that term woman. I want to say it again. The term woman, according to this ruling in the Equality Act of 2010, is someone who was born a biological female at birth. And what this done is it essentially excludes transgender women from legal recognition under the Act. This includes those with a gender recognition certificate. Now, James, I think the big question is what this ruling actually means in practice, in real life. And it is significant as it will directly affect policies related to single-sex services and spaces. So that means things like women-only changing rooms, bathrooms, domestic violence shelters, and rape crisis centers. It also affects sports and employment policies aimed at recruiting women. Now, after this ruling, organizers may legally exclude transgender women from these spaces without violating the Equality Act.
Oh, I mean, we have protections in here for people, as we should. You should exclude somebody just, well, you know, I'm excluding. We have these protections. The protection, we want to be able to protect people, but you should have the right to go and work. I should have the right to hire you. Right? Like we have these protections, though, that we're just like, well, I'm never going to hire. You know, you look weird. You look this. You're black. We have protections here. Well, you're not going to hire a person to do this because this is meant for a woman. Yeah, but I'm a woman. No, you say you're a woman. And I have nothing against transgender people. Knock yourself out. I mean, I saw a great meme last night that said, look, if you know what I'm going to do from now on? I'm going to hire only transgender women. Man strength at woman pay. I win. This will probably be going to Canada next for the next challenge. I wonder what's going to happen there.
LGBTQ2 plus.
He's always going to fight for them, that guy. Always going
Even though he doesn't know how to pronounce them.
He doesn't even know what he's talking about because nobody knows what he's talking about because it's all pretend. Oh, that's not very nice, Chad. No, that's just honesty. But it's funny, the way that they issued their ruling in Britain Because I don't think a bunch of people are going to like, well, you know what? Good, I can finally fire you today, Glenda. Glenn, that's your real name. Get out of this. I've been wanting to call you Glenn for a long time. I can't wait to call you Glenn. I don't like you, Glenn. You're a jerk.
Yeah, this is such a huge issue, isn't it? It goes well beyond the UK. It's an issue, it's a debate, it's a topic in countries all around the world. Absolutely a massive debate here in the United States as well. I imagine there's been a lot of response to this ruling.
I think you nailed it when you said this is a global issue. There's been a global response. Here in the UK, yes, as you can imagine, there's been vocal and varied reactions to this ruling. Women's rights groups here in the UK argue the decision is a victory for the protection of single-sex spaces, while other groups like Amnesty International express concern that the decision undermines protections for transgender individuals. Now, for their part, and this is interesting, James, the court ruling goes on to say that we counsel against using this reading as a judgment, as a triumph for one or more groups in our society at the expense of another. It is not.
But it has been. That's what this has been about, the expense of the other. Women, you guys need to fight this fight. You're asking, in a lot of ways, you've been pushed out of it, right? Like Riley Gaines, she went out and fought the fight. And let's be real, the fight has been good to her in some ways. She's raised the level. I don't know if she ever really planned to do this, but it's not the worst thing that's ever happening. She's taken this cause on. But overall, like J.K. Rowling, she's fought this fight. Remember when everybody was burning her books? We're going to buy your books and burn them. She's like, good, buy them again. But women have to be at the forefront of this. You have to be the forefront. You have to be pushing it. You have to make your voice heard. Can't just be men. I was joking with, yesterday. And then I said, the quicker that, that women get out of women's sports and men can get in there and pretend to be women, the better sports and more watchable it's going to be. You have to take this amongst yourself to get out there and fight and not be pushed around. And that's the cultural Marxism is this is what I say, do this or else. And it's not just about gender. It's about race. It's about everything. Everything in its context of this ideology of intersectionality, of somebody is always kicking down and you're the victim. And so extra victim here, extra victim there, and you can't do that. And if you do, you'll be punished for it. And that's just insane. And we've got to stop it. And I've got daughters. I don't want my daughters inside of a shower with a man. Not because I can't look at somebody and say, I think you have, you can believe all that, knock yourself out, whatever. That's between you and your parents, and you deal with that on your own. But as for me being a parent, no. And I won't have them believing and buying into, they told me that's a woman. Well, no, it's not. You know the difference. But I don't want to say anything because I'll get in trouble. That's the perfect example of the Marxism, the cultural side of it. It's being told, if you don't believe this, you'll be in trouble. And then finally getting to the point where you make the biggest change, which is, I know I don't believe it, but I have to say it or else.
It also clarifies that people who are transgender, whether they are undergoing, have undergone, or are planning to undergo the gender reassignment process, they are specifically still protected under the Equality Act 2010. So definitely, James, it's complicated, and as you say, something that is of interest globally right now.
Yeah, and we know J.K. Rowling has been very vocal about this issue. Is she saying anything about it today?
Yeah, exactly. Well, a little background before we get to J.K. Rowling, because this all started in Scotland when the organization Women for Scotland challenged an act that promoted more women, including transgender women, on public boards. And this is where J.K. Rowling entered, because she donated £70,000. That's nearly $100,000 to their crowdfunding campaign. Now, just this morning, she responded to this court case, posting on X. She writes, "It took 3 extraordinary, tenacious Scottish women with an army behind them to get this case heard by the Supreme Court, and in winning, they protected the rights of women and girls across the UK." for women. Scott, I'm so proud to know you. And now, of course, there's been groups that have responded in response to this. This group, Scottish Trans and Advocacy Group for Transgender Rights, argued the decision could set a concerning precedent for the treatment of trans individuals under UK law. James?
You shouldn't treat anybody bad. You shouldn't. I mean, the fact that we always have to say that, are there people out there to treat people bad? Of course there's. Are there people out there that would take advantage of this? Yes. But are they few and far between? Yeah. But she came out and she has been a leader in this because she has felt like, J.K. Rowling, that they're erasing women. That's been the goal, was to erase women. Just across the board. Let's just get rid of women. Let's blur the lines when it comes to gender. And she held strong. And she gave some money. She can afford it. What do you think her net worth is?
JK's?
She's got to be $1 billion, right?
No, she's given away so much of it that she fell out of the billionaire status.
No.
Yeah. She's very much into philanthropy.
Oh, my goodness. No way. Lie to me, Belle. 820 billion pounds, or right around $1 billion. But she has given away a lot. Mostly to people who recognize what a woman is. We do. JK, want to write a story about us? She probably doesn't.
She's listening right now.
I don't think she is.
I think she's done writing.
No, I thought aren't they doing, isn't she doing something new?
Is she?
Yeah, I thought there's going to be another movie.
Is there another movie or television show? Something like that.
Well, she'll make money off that passively.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't, I'm always, you never know what they're doing. I mean, is she writing? I'm always surprised at who writes what's. Like, I'm watching the show Dark Winds. Have you guys seen that? You should watch that show. That's about Native American cops, like in the Navajo tribe in like the 70s. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's on my list.
And it's cool, but it's George R.R. Martin who does, like all the sci-fi,
And this is a TV show?
Yeah.
So how long till the dragons show up?
And the boob dragons haven't showed up yet. But, it's, what's funny? In one of the episodes, I'm watching it with my wife, and I'm like, there are two guys inside of a cell playing chess. And I'm like, is that Robert Redford and George R.R. Martin playing chess? And I go and look it up, like, yep. It's just so weird.
By the way, AI says yes. J.K. Rowling is involved in the new Harry Potter TV series.
There you go. I like that. I like that. Because all those people that freaked out about it. You know what really pissed me off about that is all those people who, because of her books and then the movies, they became megastars and they kind of turned on her. Because she had a belief that was something different. So rather than go, I don't believe, I've got friends who I differ wildly in certain things, but I don't discard them. And they did. And sure enough, none of my friends ever made me a lot of money or famous. I'll tell you that right now, because I would definitely not discard them. Coming up, a lot of FAA is testing drone detection equipment. Did you guys see that? That's not working. We don't need drone detection equipment. We can see it with our eyes. I just want to know if some of them are UFOs.
We got guns.
That's right, man. I'll tell you that right now. Mister. A lot of good stuff to get to. Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 997. Oh, kids, let me tell you something about lean. Lean into this. Losing weight. Yo-yo dieting sucks. We've all been there. Trust me, I've been there way too much. You drop 30 pounds, you're feeling good. Those old pants fit. Next thing you know, you're back into going, I think I have to buy even bigger pants. Why? Because you put it back on. What that does for your body is awful. Go to takelean.com. Use my code Benson20. You're going to save 20% right away. And this is science. This is doctors. This is no prescriptions. This is no injections. It is amazing. It is simple and easy. Take a couple pills a day and watch what happens. It is first and foremost balancing out that blood sugar. Secondly, just crushing the cravings because we all get to that like boredom thought, the food noise, and then burning fat, converting it into energy. That's what lean does. Get off the yo-yo dieting, which is bad for you, and get with lean. Save 20% now. Go to takelean.com. Use code Benson20. Takelean.com. Code Benson20.
All right, drivers, over on the East Bank, we have a crash. That's 24 westbound near Shelby Avenue. Metro Center, police activity blocking the right lane. 65 northbound near Rosa Parks Boulevard. And in Rural Hill, we have TDOT reporting a crash with the right lane blocked 24 westbound at Bell Road. Federal judge today ruling the Trump administration's in contempt of court. And we've got some new information about the man arrested in Maryland and deported to El Salvador. New York Post reporting this. Coming up at 2 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
From El Salvador.
El Salvador.
I think maybe he and his wife had issues.
Yes, sir.
And now she is making muy dinero off of this. Best thing that's ever happened to them. Here's some honesty. She's got to be going like, I hope this thing goes on forever. The money we're making off this cat? Oh, good God.
Well, now all of a sudden they have a legal team.
Of course.
So they've got free legal advice.
And they've got so many legal people, legal beagles everywhere. And then they've got their GoFundMe. Because it wouldn't be a tragedy if I didn't have a GoFundMe.
Yep.
GoFundMe. No, GoFund you is what I say. Speaking of that.
That'll show them.
Sam O'Neill, he fought dinosaurs. He probably would have to fight the direwolf. Talking about AI, talking about, the modern world.
Call me old-fashioned.
Okay, you're old-fashioned.
But I refuse to check out my own groceries at a supermarket. I want a human being to assist me. I don't think that's too much to ask. And every time I check out something for myself, you've got to think of this. I'm doing someone out of a job.
Oh, my Lord, Sam, are you serious? Well, what about the time you fought the dinosaurs?
And if robots and self-serving are going to do all the work everywhere, who's going to be buying the groceries at the checkout? Think about that. It's an old-fashioned question, but it's a legitimate one, I think.
I think it is not as legitimate as you think, sir. Because, it's groceries. It sounds like something that is like, I'm not going to bag my own groceries. You think I'm a peasant? Did you see the one of the trade officials yesterday from China called Americans peasants?
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Uh-huh.
Yeah, getting back at us.
Yeah, there you go. We are.
He said we're going to be crying.
Are we?
That's what he said.
Are we really going to be crying? I mean, do you really think that? I mean... No, we're not going to be crying. Nice try, though. No, I'm not saying there's not some people that would cry, because I think some people would be upset if certain things don't go the way they want. But you know what? And we'll talk about it, some of the tariff stuff. I think we discount what Americans would do if push came to shove. Yes, you're going to have those whiny people now, and they're a little bit more, we've always had them. We just didn't have they didn't have the reach because we didn't have social media. But yes, I think that there is a vast majority of us were pulled together in a much, much stronger way than I think people would realize. So don't discount that guy who calls us peasant. You go on back to Winnie the Pooh over there, all right? Chairman Pooh. Third hour of the Chad Benson Show is coming up. Who knows who else will offend? It is the Chad Benson Show. Super Talk 99.7.
Two o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. And a federal judge today ruling that the executive branch acted in contempt of court when 2 planes carrying alleged Venezuelan gang members to El Salvador was not turned around last month. ABC's Devin Dwyer breaking down the judge's words for the administration.
What Judge Boasberg said now today, that the actions of the government at that time by sending those planes, not turning them around back in March, was a willful disregard for its order. He goes on to say, quoting Chief Justice Marshall, the first Chief Justice of the United States, that allowing this to go unheeded, it would be a solemn mockery of the Constitution itself.
So in terms of next steps here, he's asking for the Trump administration in a week or so to file a declaration explaining the next steps that they've taken to kind of purge themselves of this potential finding of contempt, which would take each of those alleged Venezuelan gang members being given a chance to challenge their removability. New information about the man arrested in Maryland and deported to El Salvador, who was on one of those flights. The Department of Homeland Security claims Kilmar Abrego Garcia's wife, who has been advocating for his return, filed for a protective order against her husband in 2021. The New York Post says it has reached out to lawyers representing Garcia for comment. Meanwhile, the federal judge trying to force the Trump administration to return Garcia wants a hearing in the next 2 weeks. And we're learning new details about the teenager suspected of opening fire at a high school in Dallas, Texas yesterday.
According to court documents, 17-year-old Tracy Haynes Jr. was allowed to get into the school by another student who held a door, and then he began indiscriminately shooting at students who he encountered. Haynes Jr. faces charges of aggravated assault mass shooting. He allegedly approached a student who was not able to run and took a point-blank shot. 5 students were shot and went to hospitals. All are recovering. Previously, police had said 3 students were shot, with a 4th having been injured. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Here in Nashville, the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency says one of its agents shot and killed a suspect and took 2 other suspects into custody this morning around 6 o'clock. Channel 4 says it was at the Fairfield Inn and Suites Hotel on 29th Avenue North just as this employee was arriving to work.
When I come down this side road, everything was blocked off. And police, they were wearing bulletproof vests, DEA marked jackets. I knew it was serious.
So the suspect who died was a 36-year-old man. No one else was injured. Channel 4 says the Metro Nashville Police Department is the lead investigation agency on this. Another win for Mayor Freddie O'Connell's transit plan to be funded by a sales tax increase. The Tennessee Court of Appeals now says it can be legally implemented, upholding a lower court's ruling against the committee to stop an unfair tax lawsuit. But the judges did say money from that sales tax increase cannot be used to buy land for housing and parks. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WWTN, Hendersonville, Nashville.
Jerome Powell says tariffs likely to generate a rise of inflation. Oh, my. It's possible, of course. Tom Bell was talking to an economist last night. My uncle and I do a podcast. Nobody can ever hear. And it's pretty awful. That's all you guys need to know.
It has an audience of 2, and it happens to be the people that do the podcast.
That's right. There's a reason for that. But he was talking to his buddy, and he's an economist, and we were chatting, and I said, "What's your take on this?" And he's very much the nerd that he probably doesn't even know who the president is, kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like he lives in a world of numbers. That's what he sees. And I said, "Well," and he goes, "If anybody tells you they know where this is going, they're lying." So, do you know? He goes, "I don't know." How long are they going to last? Uncertainty. Uncertainty is the worst thing that can happen to a market. That's what I do know. And to an economy. If I can't plan for tomorrow, well, then I'm going to be stagnant. And so uncertainty is what we have. Could this be great long term? It's possible. Could it be awful long term? Possible. We don't know until we see how this thing is actually out there, put in full view of the world and saying, okay, this is the final thing right here. This is what it looks like. Because we don't know. On any given day, it can change. On any given day, today he was meeting with one of the heads of Japan, right, over tariffs. So that could change a little bit. All of these things are subject to change. And when something's subject to change, it's hard to build something and plan for something if you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. One thing I do know is Donald Trump and his administration are getting sued a lot.
California's federal lawsuit claims President Trump does not have the authority under the Constitution to impose the wide-ranging tariffs now in place or being threatened, and that it's the role of Congress to decide on tariffs. California Attorney General Rob Bonta.
Trump doesn't have the singular power to radically upend the country's economic landscape.
California alleges the tariffs are ruining the lives of farmers. At 43% of the state's almonds, pistachios, and dairy are exported and are right now subjected to retaliatory tariffs.
Gruesome Newsom, what do you have to say?
No rationale, no plan, no conscience to what it's doing to real people. No consideration of congressional responsibility. Where the hell is Congress?
Well, I've been asking, put anything in there when it comes to Congress, and you could ask that question. Where the hell are they? It's a great question. Gruesome, Newsom. So this lawsuit, who knows where this goes? And these battles are going to go on, just like we were talking about today, with the latest battle, because the judge finds kind of, sort of, them in contempt. What do you mean they're in contempt? But is it like full contempt? Is it kind of like maybe sort of contempt, like the one yesterday, which is like, we could find you in contempt, but is there a way for us to get around this thing? And this has nothing to do with the Maryland man. This has to do with flights. Just pick and choose which court battle that's going on.
Judge James Boasberg accuses the administration of willfully disobeying his order to turn planes around, planes that took off just as he was convening his first hearing in the case. The judge says he'll drop the criminal contempt proceedings if the administration asserts legal custody of the alleged gang members now in El Salvador, a move that he says would allow them to challenge their removal. If the administration refuses, he says he'll call for live witness testimony to determine which individuals the court should punish.
We used to call for dead testimony, but we're going with the live witnesses this week. They work way better. I walked by some a few months ago and it says live pony rides. I'm like, well, what are the dead ones like?
You sort of sit there and go nowhere.
They don't even stand up. You just kind of lean on them. Again, it's all noise. Everything's noise until the Supreme Court. And the thing about the Supreme Court, and I think everybody thinks they can't wait for stuff like this. Chief Justice Roberts is a person who holds the court in like a certain reverence. They don't want to get involved in certain things, especially if there's precedents set. They want to let the system itself work itself out. Their job should be in the absolute event of a true judicial constitutional emergency, we will look at something. Unless it's never been looked at before, then they get excited about stuff like that. And so that's why some of their rulings have been kind of vague, which isn't good, but they're trying to say...
Squishy.
Yeah.
They want to have their cake and eat it too.
Well, but they also want, they don't want to step on Trump's toes because certain things out there are meant for for the president that have to do with stuff that's not in their purview, which is, I don't know, foreign affairs. They don't get involved in that. So they're trying to walk this line of, we don't want to overrule, but we don't want to underrule. We kind of want to give you guys a roadmap saying, look, these are the rules you have to follow at this point in time until eventually they may have to actually rule on something. I know it's crazy.
Well, that's exactly what they did with Roe versus Wade.
Yeah, until it was to the point where they had no choice but to rule on it. And there, you don't know what's going to happen with any of this because they can go all over the place and play this game and kind of run out the clock, which is what I think that they're going to do.
What if there are arguments over privilege?
And this has to do with the Maryland guy now.
With regard to what they have to testify to and don't, and it goes back to the Supreme Court and eventually comes back to the judge. And the judge finally says, you've got to go ahead and do something with El Salvador. And they say, okay, El Salvador, wink, wink, we'd like you to bring him back. And they say, we're good, we're not going to do anything. And then the administration says, well, we've tried. That becomes an interesting question because now they can say, we've asked, they've said no. What do you want us to do?
There's nothing you can do. I mean, at that point, there's nothing you can do. But the point is, they want the lower courts and to sort this out. They want to be they don't want to be the final decision maker on everything all the time. Which is everybody's dream, right? Like you do something, hope you get it there because you want a ruling. And if it hasn't been ruled on before, and they've really never brought up this, they're more apt to look at it. And the makeup of the court will also change some of the things, the Roe versus Wade, the Dobbs decision, those kind of things. So these are all interesting cases, but everything for the most part is probably going to be decided, at the Supreme Court level. And somebody asked earlier about, which gets frustrated because people don't like the district court because they don't like, by the way, the district court, a vast majority of them are Trump appointees. And they all judge shop. There's a reason that when they take somebody from Columbia University, they fly him down to Louisiana. There's a judge there that they think, this person's probably going to deliver what I'm looking for, which is something it frustrates a lot of us. You would like to think that these judges are there's nothing, but they see no color. They see nothing but this is how I interpret it, like a great oracle, and that's it. But they both look at the liberal justices and the conservatives look at the law and the Constitution in two separate ways for the most part when it comes to certain issues in particular. That's usually cultural issues. Damn cultural issues indeed. So I'm arguing with people, which I should not do. But last night I did and I'm debating on whether or not to bring this up. And you can see it on my YouTube because there's some things in there that they're not like, I'll tell you this. Let me tell you how this gives me pause. I am a grown ass man. I said ass again. I shouldn't be doing it. I'm a grown man. 47, whatever I said I was last week. What was 48? Was that what it was? I am a person who is a father. I like my job a lot. Some of the things that are going on in schools are insane. And this is not the politics of it is we can leave that out. It's just the common sense of it all. And in Burlington Township, there was a questionnaire handed out. And it's weird because I'm sitting there going, should I talk about it? Should I not? Should I play some of the stuff? Should I not? Because I had to cut it down big time. Like the video, the YouTube, I can say other things that you just can't say here. And this is the way I've always looked at whether it's the books or the questionnaires that are handed out to some of these kids. And these were 11-year-olds who got questionnaires that were so insane. I couldn't even imagine. My wife said you would not be allowed to go to that kind of meeting if that was our daughters. I said, no, because, they'll be like, there's a man with a flamethrower and he's standing on a podium. And it is the things they talk about. Like I can't read some of this stuff. I can't even repeat some of this stuff. That kids who are 11 are filling out questionnaires that are handed out by the school. Because if you do, if I did that, start talking about some of the stuff, I'd get fired for it. The FCC would be like, hello? And they're like, what's your name? I'm like, Belkay.
Thanks. I can always count on you to help me under the bus.
I got your back, kind of, sort of. So it's odd. So I posted it. I put there's a video on. You can get my Twitter and the YouTube. Check it out at Chad Benson Show. But and I cut it down to like 6 minutes because some of it was just first it was a bit long, but it was parent after parent talking about this questionnaire. But what do I get in some responses, especially from people who are liberal? It's the first thing they respond to. Donald Trump's a pedophile. What do you think of that? I'm like, first of all, whatever. Secondly, this has nothing to do with Donald Trump. This has to do with a Burlington, Vermont, or wherever school and their questionnaire that Donald Trump had nothing to do with. Yeah, but this is what you're just screaming about stuff. I never mentioned the political side of any of it, outside of the insanity of it. But you'd be surprised the lunacy that people shoot at me. And I'm going to play you one piece of these parents going up there talking about their handout that their kid got. 11-year-olds.
These things keep happening over and over again, and I'm tired of having to fight for the right of my child and every other child to not have sexual content pushed on them. They're in middle school. Please let them go through puberty without this stuff being pushed on them.
And that's kind of like one of the tamer pieces that's there. And I can tell you, it's like Vermont or wherever. It's northeastern part of the country. Probably not a lot of super uber conservative MAGA folk. These were people that were pissed because 11-year-olds got things about, dangerous living. Have you done some of these things? If I was 11, you would ask me, have you done some of these things? I wouldn't know what 90% of the stuff that was on that questionnaire. Now, if you would have said, have you ridden your bike off your grandmother's roof into your pool at 11? I could have answered that. Is that dangerous?
Not even a little bit.
No.
You do what you do.
But the sex, we had, it's a questionnaire. And nobody thought, maybe this is something we shouldn't do. I'll see if I can edit some of it up. We'll play a little bit because it is, again, some of the parents were more than upset, and I'll try to maybe read through a little bit of it. And again, it's take away the politics. Just come at it from a parental side of common sense. Let's talk about that. Harvard's a little upset, but I want to play you some interesting stuff between Shermichael Singleton last night and Abby Phillips, which I think is the perfect example of the battle that we have going on with China right now and us peasants here in America, as that one guy called us over there in China. It is the Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. Prize Picks. Kids, how would you like to go to the championship? Well, you have a chance now every day with Prize Picks, and it's awesome. Now, Prize Picks, you can win up to 2,000 times your money, which is insane. And this is over-under. It's simple to do. And every time you play, starting right now with the playoffs, guess what? You're entered in for a chance to win, you and another person, a VIP opportunity to go to the championship. It's amazing. It's over-under, okay? I want to remind everybody it's the over-under side of things. So you're not betting on teams. You're saying, hey, I think, Anthony Davis is going to get more than 7 rebounds. And maybe I'm going to go another sport and say, I think Ovechkin's going to score more than 2 goals this game. And that's how you play it. But every time you enter, you have a chance to win. Now, when you use my code Chad, when you download the app, it takes like 60 seconds. You get your money instantly. But when you play your first $5 lineup, like I just laid out for you, you get 50 bonus bucks immediately, win or lose. Download the app today. Get a chance to win up to 2,000 times your money. Take advantage of all the great things they got going on and a chance for a VIP opportunity to go to the basketball championship. Go download the app now. Prize Picks. Use my code Chad. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be 21 and present in Tennessee. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-426-2537.
Nashville's police chief under internal investigation. We'll give you the details on that coming up at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I like that.
Parents are tired of it. I don't like to be up here. I hate this. I hate conflict. But what I hate more is knowing the impact of kids, of this stuff getting pushed on them and normalizing it to them. I was one of those parents who opted my kid out because as soon as I saw it, I said, I don't want my kid taking this. And he took it. And I'm disgusted that he had to answer those questions.
Did he take it?
They told him he had to take it and he didn't think anything of it.
Didn't think anything of it. Told him he had to take it. There were several parents who last night complained, or the other day complained about this questionnaire about sex. And we're talking about, you're 11. Okay? You're 11. When we were 11, we're like, oh my God, we can, we maybe try to sneak a picture at the old National Geographic. Every guy did it, so settle down, right? Settle down. Like, oh my God, a booby. I mean, it's down to her knees, but still, it's a booby. Chad. The insanity, though, like these women are trying to calm down. This guy, not so much.
Explain to me what I'm supposed to tell my 11-year-old daughter about and sex and sex toys. Please, I'll give you the rest of my time.
That was it.
And what was their answer?
They looked at them perplexed. Like, oh, I don't know. First of all, there's nobody inside of the room when they're putting these questionnaires together that doesn't go, you know what, guys? I'm going to have to stop you right there. Do any of you have kids? Okay, no. No is a good place to start with this. When, at my age, maybe Ken, you remember this? Belle, we had sex ed. It was like a class. They take out the banana with the condom. You're like, oh, my God. And everybody giggled and laughed. And, but they talked about some stuff. And essentially, don't get somebody pregnant. Don't get pregnant. We're moving on with our lives. There was no toys involved in my sex ed. I don't know what about you? There was none.
No, I never saw anything like that
in
school.
No. And nobody asked me. There wasn't a questionnaire I filled out. It wasn't like, hey, Timmy, when you're done with kickball, come on in here. I want to know if you've been to an orgy. You forgot to fill it out. Do you know what a pineapple is upside down?
Don't ever get that tattoo.
Oh, God. And this is something your parents should be working with you. And yes, does it come from a left perspective? Somebody said, yeah, there is, the Sears catalog. We all know the Sears catalog was our maxim back in the, back in the 70s. But there is a leftist bent, but there was no they weren't talking politics that night. They were just talking common sense. The common sense of no. Why was there nobody in the room that said no? Why is it when I said, no, I don't want my kid to have this, he still had to take it or she still had to take it? And by the way, what are you doing with this? That's what I want to know on top of that. I wish somebody would ask that. What are you doing with all the answers you're getting about these kids and what they may or may not know? And I'm not a prude by any means. And you know what? Kids are going to find stuff out. That's why you engage with them. That's the beauty of being a parent, is you're going to have to talk to them about stuff, warn them about stuff, and hopefully you get to the point where you've done a good job, a good enough job as a parent. Their head's screwed on tight, and they recognize there's some things out there. But there wasn't even questions about, like, have you gone to the chat rooms with weirdos? It's just all the weird stuff you could think of. And then, of course, and every leftist out there or person who thinks that I wasn't even attacking the education system. Trust me, there's enough out there to attack the system as a whole. And I'm not talking about teachers, although there's some wackadoo ones out there. But I'm talking about the system as a whole is a giant mess. I'm just talking about common sense. And common sense says there's just certain things that's a parent thing. And this has nothing to do with getting somebody pregnant or talking to them about certain things. This wasn't even talking about stranger danger, for God's sakes. Stranger danger. Coming up, we're going to talk a little Harvard. Harvard's got some problems. Should they be getting money? We discuss it. We got Matt coming up in a little while as well. This is the Chad Benson Show. Super Talk 99.7.
2:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Drivers over on the East Bank still have police reporting a crash 24 westbound there near Shelby Avenue. Metro Center, police activity blocking the right lane, 65 northbound near Rosa Parks Boulevard. And then TDOT reports a crash blocking the right lane, 24 westbound at Bell Road. The chief judge of the federal district court in D.C. says he believes there's grounds to hold Trump administration officials in criminal contempt for not turning around flights of alleged Venezuelan gang members to El Salvador last month. More from ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy.
The judge says the administration's conduct amounts to a willful disregard of a legally binding order. He directed that planes be turned around, and the administration refused. Judge James Boasberg now says if the government doesn't claim it has legal custody of the Venezuelan men, allowing them to challenge their removal even while still overseas, he'll call for testimony to determine which individuals should be held in contempt. He says he might even appoint an attorney to prosecute the charges if the Justice Department won't.
Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security says the man arrested in Maryland and placed on one of those flights to El Salvador had a history of violence. They posted court documents to X purporting to show Kilmar Abrego Garcia's wife, who is advocating for his return, sought a domestic violence restraining order against him. The federal judge overseeing Garcia's deportation case is pushing the Justice Department to testify under oath once an expedited discovery hearing in the next 2 weeks. And a day after the release of new statistics on autism, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is offering up theories about what's behind the surge in cases. Here's Jim Ryan.
In its own literature about autism spectrum disorder, the CDC cites genetic conditions as one potential cause. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suggests that
Genes don't cause epidemics. You need an environmental toxin.
And he thinks it's not an accident.
Somebody made a profit by putting that environmental toxin into our air, our water, our medicines, our food.
Kennedy has vowed to determine the source of what he calls the autism epidemic. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
And right now in Nashville, Metro Police Chief, or rather Metro Police say that Chief John Drake is under an internal investigation amid allegations of a romantic relationship with a Metro employee on city time. The investigation centered around text messages purported to be between Drake and the employee, which the Office of Professional Accountability is looking into whether the chief was carrying on this relationship while at work, including inviting the employee to his office. A police spokesman says there's no evidence indicating the allegations are true, but they need to be looked into. And the allegations are coming from a man accused of stalking the Metro employee involved. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Ruff Greens, ruffgreens.com. Vitamins, minerals, probiotics, omega-3, 6, 9, all this awesome stuff, power packed into a supplement that it's a scoop a day for your dog, and it will change your dog's life. Guaranteed. From my good friends at Ruff Greens. Dr. Dennis Black, naturopathic doctor, formulated this. He understands, he loves his animals like I love mine, and I've been giving my dogs Ruff Greens since the day we brought him home. Gave my older dog Ruff Greens, and, you know, there wasn't a 90-day challenge that they're challenging everybody to try. It was just life-changing for him. We thought we were going to have to put him to sleep. And lo and behold, Doodle lasted an extra 6 cantankerous years, which I loved, and missed the little guy. And he should have been, we thought about putting him to sleep before that. It is awesome what it's going to do for your dog. In over 90 days, you will see a marked improvement guaranteed. Try a Jumpstart trial bag of Ruff Greens. That's a $20 value, absolutely free. All they ask you to do is cover the cost of shipping. Go to ruffgreens.com/Chad. Use my code Chad, ruffgreens.com/Chad. Get a free bag of Ruff Greens now, $20 value, ruffgreens.com/Chad. The Wellness Institute of Nashville is ready to help you get out there and start enjoying this beautiful weather. And I know what you're saying, Chad, I'd love to. My back hurts. My back. Yeah, well, guess what? Not only is your back going to feel better, but you're going to save as well. And on to the 47 present, 47% off non-surgical spinal decompression going on right now. The big 47 offer. So you're thinking, okay, what is this all about? You want a life that is free of pain. You want to be able to enjoy the gorgeous weather. You want to be able to pick up your kids or your grandkids and have fun. Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Ashley are going to help you with that. They're experts, and it's incredible. They're going to come in. You're going to get a consultation, right? First, boom, exam, go through it, x-rays, and bring an MRI if you have it. Let them take a look at all that stuff. They're going to review it, and then they're going to build you a plan that's right for you. You want that back to feel better. You need that back to feel better because once those things start going south, man, it is tough to get it back, literally. Call them today. Get living in a better way. Get ready to enjoy a gorgeous spring and summer. Doing it pain-free with the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Call 615-246-5009, 615-246-5009, or painisbad.com. Hey, Ken.
Yes, sir.
Go over that story again about the police chief.
The police chief. Okay, let's see here. Let me get back to my cast.
He is being investigated because somebody complained on him, and the person who complained on him was the person who's stalking the person that they... What?
Yeah. So Chief John Drake's under an internal investigation. This is from allegations that he has had a romantic relationship with a Metro employee on city time. And the investigation is surrounding some text messages purported to be between Drake and this employee. This is one of those Office of Professional Accountability investigations.
Okay.
Looking into whether or not the chief, invited the employee to his office.
Oh. And the person that snitched.
The person that is making the allegations is a man accused of stalking said Metro employee.
Okay.
Well, that doesn't help your credibility.
No. I mean, if you guys could leave that out on this, right, and stop judging me.
I'm in true love here. I'm trying to, get to the end result.
Yeah. Just because I live in her bushes every once in a while, she's got a restraining order, doesn't mean I don't care about her and I want the best for her.
Yeah.
All right. I
wasn't trying to scare her when I was peeking in the window.
Oh, my goodness. This is, first of all, how would you know? How do you know that he sent me messages? I'm stalking you. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, apparently the text messages have been presented.
Okay. Well, this will be interesting to see.
They weren't doing anything in the cemetery on 4th Avenue, were they?
They were not.
Okay.
No, that's only for the mayor. You've got to be that's for politicians really only. Some people are texting in about the thing we were talking about, the crazy sex questionnaire. One person says, wow, Chad, just looked it up. Your wife is correct. Someone would have been bleeding. That's the thing when I watch this, and people want to know where it's at. It's Burlington School District. Look up, sexual questionnaire, I guess the best thing. And it's several places now. It was the attitude of the people sitting there, the school boards, which is becoming the new battleground for things. But they were so whatever, I don't care what you're saying. That to me, I think pisses more people off that you don't give them, at least look at it from their point of view and give them, okay, you're venting, I understand this, we need to look at this. Maybe this wasn't done in the right way, but it's done. And it was just well, why didn't you opt your kid out? Well, I did. Well, why'd they take it? I don't know. The teacher told them to. It's that attitude that is.
It literally sounds like they want to say, and they can't bring themselves to say it, but they want to say, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Then why'd you run for the seat?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I thought I'd get a good parking job, and it was once a week, and I may want to run for district council superintendent of something stupid, and this is a great first step. I didn't know there was going to be stuff.
Did you ever see Grosse Point Blank?
Oh, God, yeah.
Remember the scene where Dan Aykroyd's trying to convince John that he needs to join his union?
Will there be meetings?
Will there be meetings? Of course. course. No meetings. Boom, boom, boom.
Exactly. That's the way I feel. There's a place called Harvard. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I hear it is Harvard Law School. I hear it's a rather prestigious place in Beantown, if you'd like to go. It's a great place to meet people and move your way up.
The Trump administration freezing more than $2 billion in federal grant money after Harvard University rejected a list of government demands, including overhauling hiring and admissions practices. Harvard, America's wealthiest university, not backing down in the face of pressure from President Trump, who was threatening to pull roughly $9 billion in federal aid unless the school makes a slew of changes to the way it's run.
A slew of changes. That is a lot of changes. So, of course, Harvard said, well, fine, if you're going to do that, they did not back down. They said, all right, you know what, we've thought about it. Because a lot of schools, colleges, they're saying, all right, we're going to get rid of this, we're going to get rid of that. We're not going to do this, whatever you're asking, we need that funding. So we were talking about James Madison the other day. They changed everything. Why? It was a $155 million endowment. That's all they have. They need certain funding for their research programs. Harvard's got $54 billion in there. That's a lot of money. I know. $54.2 billion in their endowment. They can go a bit.
Because the letter that was sent to Harvard was so detailed, with so many demands, that actually helps Harvard's legal case here. It allows them to say they can't pretend that this is about anything other than all the things listed. A lot of involvement in day-to-day operations at Harvard, which I think would be deemed unconstitutional. Question is Harvard going to move forward with a lawsuit? It sure looks like they probably will.
Now, I looked it up. I wanted to make sure. I went to 3 or 4 places to double, quadruple check what they are asking Harvard to do. Eliminate DEI programs, being pressured to dismantle its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, aligning with the administration's broader efforts to remove such programs from federally funded institutions. I don't really have a problem with that. Admissions and hiring practices, they want to seek an end to consideration of race admissions, hiring advocacy for strictly merit-based, which merit-based is great. Governance reforms. Restructuring of Harvard's leadership to ensure greater accountability and alignment with federal restrictions. Exemptions. Now, here's where it gets a little weird. Campus protest and free speech. Harvard is being urged to suppress student protests, particularly those related to pro-Palestinian sentiments, and implement a measure ensuring viewpoint diversity. They've got a lot of issues. We understand that. Viewpoint diversity, I would love to see more of that. Growing up, you'd hear about people going to college, right? It's like that first time you're away from home. For most kids in particular, this is, they're getting away from mom and dad. It's not just about the partying. It's not just about that, but you're going to find out how other people live. Maybe, you come from an uber conservative household, but then you're going to get in theory, you're supposed to get a viewpoint that may be different because your roommate may be very liberal and you gel and you're hearing different things. And it's supposed to be this bastion of free speech and free thought. They haven't done that. They have failed tremendously at that. And then the other thing is collaboration with federal authorities. University expects to cooperate more closely with immigration authorities and allow federal audits of its academic programs. I think a few of those things, for me, I think it's a little bit of a bridge too far. But their diversity side, as far as viewpoints, that's a very real thing that we should be talking about. And not just on the conservative side. The liberals, you need to be asking questions. Why aren't we having more diversity when it comes to thought? Why is it that for most of these higher learning places, it's one-sided across the board? So last night, Shermichael Singleton and Abby Phillips on CNN, one of the only shows I can somewhat, if I have to watch it, I will. just because I like lonely Scott Jennings, who's usually on there arguing with people.
There is a public good here that comes from America's universities, not just Harvard. Here's Ron Brownstein on this. Boston and Austin to Seattle and Silicon Valley, these elite research universities have served as catalysts for growth in the nation's most productive regional economies. In the global competition for 21st century economic supremacy, Trump's wide-ranging assault on America's top research institutions may come to be seen as a profound act of unilateral disarmament. We are, is what he's saying, shooting ourselves in the foot by basically saying we're going to strip all the research dollars away so that Harvard can admit 100 more conservatives?
No, it's not what it's about. Again, they failed in many of these things. It's not about, we're going to strip this research. And by the way, she is right. I'm going to try to get Michael Crow on next week. He is the president of ASU. He was at one time the president. It was Columbia, I think. The research dollars that go into colleges, the benefits that we get when they're researching things like cancer, AI in particular right now, the battle of technology, so much of those don't come from the private laboratories. It comes from a lot of these amazing research facilities, and a vast majority of the money that goes to Harvard, which was $683 million, I think, goes to the research facilities. But then, and again, the diversity, equity, inclusion, that stuff is nuts. Diversity's fine. If it's organic, you should include people, give them an opportunity until they're wackadoos and you throw them out of there. But the equity side of stuff is the thing that screws us up. But merit-based, and they get into this discussion about, China and the arms race of AI.
I think from my perspective as a conservative, there really is a real battle going on in the country right now between liberalism, conservatism, and which of the two ideologies will lead the country into the next 50 to 100 years, particularly as we look at China and what their advancements and developments are in terms of usurping U.S. lead globally. And I am not certain that every single liberal institution that's an Ivy League, I don't think they've really done enough to have intellectual diversity of thought on a litany of topics. I mean, these places are really breeding grounds for some of the most
don't you think
abhorrent views, in my personal opinion.
The race against China is not being fought on the grounds of domestic political discourse.
I would disagree with that,
Abby. It's in the scientific labs. It's in the AI labs. It's in the
I would
research.
Disagrey. I think culture matters.
Oh, yeah, I
think customs of behavior matter. I think norms matter. All of those things matter in terms of the health of a society.
If China, you know what? Guess what China's not? Diverse. Guess what they're looking for? The best of the best. They're not putting people in places because of their skin color, what they identify, what their pronouns are. They want to win, and they're willing to do just about anything to do it. They're not playing a game of, we've got to have so many people checking off the boxes. If you've seen any of the labs at any of these places, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of things being checked off, but because Asians now qualify as white people when it comes to certain things like this, they don't get checked off in that. It's merit-based when we're talking about the things that we're talking about, like AI and the arms race for that.
Can you imagine? I mean, look at something like the Olympics. How quote-unquote diverse is China's teams? How diverse is Japan's?
Have you ever seen Daniel Tosh talk about that? He goes, man, you go around the world, you see how diverse we are comparatively. He goes, and he starts talking about the Chinese Olympic team. He goes, who do you think? Do you think they have a diverse Olympic team? Did you guess it's only a bunch of Chinese? He goes, you guys want to start winning some stuff? You guys better get a Harlem up in there. We're the most diverse nation on the planet, and that's great. Diversity that is actually organic and real is wonderful, but when we're talking about merit-based stuff, especially the arms race with China, China's not playing the DEI game. They're playing the winning game. We need to as well. We're going to wrap it up straight ahead. Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. We're broadcasting live in 3D Technicolor. Joining me now is the man standing behind me because he didn't do what he was supposed to. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls waving to the camera, it is Matt Murphy of the Fly.
Hey, everybody!
You could get over there and finish what you're finishing, man.
Hello again, everybody!
Broadcasting live as well. What's up, man?
How's everyone doing? Broadcasting live is better than broadcasting dead.
It is.
Trust
I know. We were talking about earlier. They're going to have some live depositions because the dead ones didn't work the way we thought.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way that goes. How's everybody? Wait, why can't I hear anything?
There you go.
Oh, my
You gotta
God.
push the
Am I
microphone.
deaf? Oh, there we go.
How's it going, man?
I'm well.
What are you up to?
You know, about 218.
Nice.
220 maybe.
Nice. Feeling
I don't know.
fit?
I don't know that I have, I haven't weighed. Oh, that's not what you meant. You meant
Do you weigh daily?
No.
You're not one of those people?
I haven't weighed in 2025.
Oh, nice. That's good. That's what you gave up. I gave up that for Lent as well.
How much do you think the hair weighed before it got cut off?
I know that was a lot. You know. Well, I decided I was trying to get more, a little more active and eat a little bit better, eat a little bit less, and lose a little weight. And I've accomplished those things. And so I realized that I was getting a little bit obsessed with what the scale said, and as opposed to just how I felt and how I
how you look in the pants. Like the pants are fitting, the shirts are fitting. I see what you're doing.
So so I just I'm just pulling out clothes that I was fitting into that I don't fit into now, and I'm like, I fit into those again. That's nice.
That's nice. That's good. That's the way you should do it, kids. Eat a little less, move a little bit more. Simple as that. What do you got on the?
It's all about intake, right? Right.
It's what is it?
Intake outcomes.
Yeah. Calories in, calories out.
Right.
See,
I mean, it's not that hard.
No, it isn't. It isn't. I mean, we could. Yeah, it'd be great if you could. Oh, we're gonna do this, and I work with a guy who's a bodybuilder, and he is just yoked. But he goes through these ebbs and flows, and when he's into like really working out and stuff, he'd bring in the scale to work, and like he's measuring everything. Oh my God. I see people running here. I saw a couple the other day. They both got 6-packs. They look beautiful, and I thought that just looks like a lot of upkeep.
Looks like a lot of work.
I know. I just want to be like Bell and just go, I give up.
We all want to be more like you, Bell. We all want to be more like Bell. Just give up on life. Just cruise our way on to death. So
settle down, Doc.
That's a great show.
Doc Adams. Best show ever.
Is it?
I think it is. It's my favorite show of all time.
Gunsmoke?
Yep.
Really? Yeah. Now, I wouldn't put it up there as the best of all time. I was a Seinfeld guy. I kind of like Seinfeld. In that era, I would pick Andy Griffith over Gunsmoke. Although Gunsmoke was pretty good.
Yeah.
Andy?
Yeah.
Orange.
Yeah, he only had one bullet.
What I love, I tried for years to find an audio bite of Festus going, Matthew! And I know he has said Matthew on that show many times, and I could never dig that up.
Matthew?
Isn't it true that, I know this is a deep cut trivia piece on Gunsmoke, but isn't it true that like Dennis Weaver left because he wanted to get into movies, and it never really worked? I mean, he did a few things.
He did a few things. Yeah, never. Because back then, movies and television were really separate.
Right, if you're a TV star, you're a TV guy.
And the movie people looked down on the TV people. Remember, was it Betty Davis did, like, that was a big deal when she did the 2-parter on Gunsmoke.
Oh, wow.
It was like, oh my.
She's a movie star.
She's
Why is
a
she
movie
doing
star.
Gunsmoke?
So that was much different now, where they all kind of, like, it doesn't matter. They morph into one.
And Miss Kitty was a prostitute, right? Everybody?
Yeah, we all knew that.
I mean, do we know that?
Yeah.
She just hung out there.
There's always somebody. See, that's why I do
You know
it,
what?
kid.
You could call her at one time she was a prostitute.
I mean, she graduated to a madam.
She was a pimp.
Does that make everybody feel better? You feel better now, Weaver? Feel better now?
That's it.
She just collected the money and broke knees.
She was just friends with the marshal.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah. Marshall Dillon.
Why didn't they fall in love? Because he knew she was a hoe.
And next time on the Chad Benson Show, we break down Pretty Woman.
Also a hoe.
Also, a prostitute.
That's right. But she doesn't kiss lips.
Yeah. They never. I always promoted on the show for years. I said that I want to see a prequel to Pretty Woman. Yeah, show me the guy that she was with the night before that Richard Gere pulled up. 400 pounds and stinky.
That's right, in a van.
I bet she didn't kiss him in the lips either.
No, not indeed.
These are the types of shenanigans that we will engage
I enjoy this kind of stuff more than I enjoy politics half the time. More than half the time.
I am, I'm beginning to wonder if, and I'm going to talk a little about this as we open the show. I'm beginning to wonder if the Trump administration, they know that they should just bring this dude back, give him a hearing, and then get him back out of here. But I'm beginning to think that they're not doing it because they would prefer the media to focus on this than anything else.
I think they love this. And also, they should have just went and said, hey, you guys need to bring this back, not make a big deal. But then they martyred him, and now Trump's like, no.
Well, right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to turn him into some sort of emotional human story, and most of America's like, nah, I'm not going to go there.
This isn't the guy they're falling in love with.
Right. We're not going to fall for this guy.
Yeah.
But we fell for the George Floyd, that kind of stuff, but we're not doing that. And so, so we'll talk about that a little bit.
They're worried about putting food on their table. They're not worried about whether or not this guy should be here.
No. And the legislative session is winding down, and so they are trying to get more of your money. I'll talk about that.
Ooh, I don't like that. That Matt Murphy Show coming up next. Chad Benson saying goodbye.